So why do we come here? We come here to practice the path of the Lord Buddha. The path of the Lord Buddha that leads to the end of dukkha. At least that's what I believe why you come here. You want to come to the end of dukkha. Or you want to get a grip on dukkha. We all know what the source of our dukkha is. The source of our dukkha is tanha. It's desire. It's wanting this, wanting that, not wanting this and not wanting that. It's constantly going on. This moment, that moment, the next moment, until the rest of our life. The path that is leading to the end of dukkha, as described by the Lord Buddha, is the path of sila, samadhi and Dhamma. Sila, the 5 precepts, or for the monks, the 227 rules. Samadhi, concentration and mindfulness. Panya, wisdom. That is the path that leads out of dukkha. And that's why I assume that you are here. You want to find the cause, or you want to eliminate the cause that constantly torments you, constantly puts you into suffering. Constantly holds a grip upon us. This tyrant is called avijja. And avijja always ducks us into the ship. Ducks us into this pain, into suffering, into restlessness, into not knowing, into whatever. Whatever we feel is unpleasant. And we always give way to it. We give way to the great avijja. We idolize it, we worship it, and we say, you've been always there, that's why I follow your rules. But that is not the path out. The path out is not to worship avijja, but the path out is to worship the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. The Buddha standing for the first one who found this truth. The Dhamma standing for the way out, for the truth itself, or for the way that leads to the truth. And the Sangha stands for the holy people. The holy people who have attained to the truth. Or they are on the way to the truth. If you worship the wrong things, we will surely not find the way out. That's quite understandable. So what we are doing? What are we doing? We come from the west, come here to a monastery that is in the east. We have been educated to the fullest. We call ourselves the top of the cream. We call ourselves first world countries. Highly educated, highly civilized, highly cultivated. What have we cultivated? What have we civilized? We have civilized and cultivated the Lord Avijja. That's what we have cultivated. That's what we have civilized. And that's why the first world countries call all other countries that do not follow their rule or they do not follow their example underdeveloped countries. Countries that need to be developed. Just like Thailand is an underdeveloped country. But when it comes to the Dhamma, we cannot even compete. We're highly educated people, trained at the best university of our countries, cannot even compete with a single farmer. With a very simple farmer that puts his heart on Dhamma and gains enlightenment within a short time, or with a short period of time. We have overtrained our mind, and it is very difficult. It is extremely difficult to gain some simpleness into our life. Because from our very first moment to our moment now, we have trained the mind. We have trained the mind to seek pleasures. In other words, if you put it very simply, we have used our mind only to masturbate, finding excitements within our brain, finding ideas that we are excited about, looking in our past that we are excited about, and looking for a future that we can be excited about. It's nothing else than masturbation. Now it's very difficult when we come here to a place that actually doesn't promise us anything that is so exciting. It just shows us the basic way of life. That is pretty rough and pretty simple. And especially here in this forest monastery, the life is pretty simple. There's no running electricity, there's no running water. There's just one food or one meal a day. And that's all what there is. There's no shows, there's no entertainment, there's no TVs, there's no magazines, there are no books. So we are thrown to the basic of life. But do we understand? Can we really retrain our mind, or much better, brainwash our mind, to be a simple mind again? Not only to think in black and white, not only to think in good and bad. Can we actually see beyond that? Can we see through this? Our mind is so much trained to see good and bad. This is good or this is bad. And there's no in between. And that is what makes it so difficult. So extremely difficult. Highly developed, but only developed for our amusement. Only developed for our entertainment. So to put it to work, to put this mind to work, seems to be so utterly difficult. And especially it doesn't fit in with the ideas that we have in the West. Once the Buddhism came to the West, it came to the West stripped of all its essence. It came to the West as a peaceful and blissful Buddhism. Everything and contented. Everything should be contented. We should be contented. We should be blissful, and we should be peaceful. But where does this peacefulness and blissfulness and contentedness come? Just comes from that we put this cloak of what we call Buddhism around our neck and hide everything what is in within us. That's what people love to do. To just take another cloth and they become another person. Put on the cloth of a king and you will become a king. Put on the cloth of a beggar and you will become a beggar. Put on the cloth of Buddhism and you will become a really good Buddhist. That's nice, that's fine, that's easy. But is it? What have we done? We just covered up all the shit that is within us with a nice, peaceful, blissful cloth that is called Buddhism. And that's where we hang on. That's where we clutch on. And that's why it is so difficult for the true teaching of the Lord Buddha to come to us, to the West. The true teaching of the Lord Buddha, as exampled here, for instance, in the forest Dhamma, or the forest tradition, where so many arahants, where so many holy people have arisen from, or have been developed to the fullest, to the completest, to the holiest. This kind of forest Dhamma has a really tough time to penetrate into the West. Because this kind of forest Dhamma is not peaceful. It's not blissful. It is nothing else than waging war. Waging war against the kilesas. Waging war against the world. And it's not only a war against one thing or another thing. It's a war against this whole world. And if you know history, somebody 50 or 60 years again or ago said this. He was called Hitler. And he persuaded the Germans, to wage a total war against the world. But it's not this kind of war that I'm talking about. When I say this in Germany, I will be locked up in prison. Or nationalistic propaganda. No, it's a war that we wage. It's a war we wage against the whole world. It's a total war. The world that is within us. The world that is within this 6-foot long body. Or 2-meter long body, whatever. That's the world that we wage war against. If this war happens to leak out, then there's something wrong with our practice. The people around us, the places around us, should not be harmed by this war that is going on within us. Because this war is going only against the kilesas, only against our views of this world. That is the war that we are talking about. Now think about bringing an idea of waging war into the West. In the West, we do not wage war within our own countries. We do not wage war within our own compounds. When we wage war in other countries, in foreign countries, where we are not heard. Because having a war, we all know, and we all experience from our past, or we know from history, that is something not very pleasant. That is something where we have to starve. It's something where we don't have enough food or don't have enough shelter. We don't have enough cloth. We don't have enough of anything. And it's always turmoil. It is constant turmoil until we finally gain victory. And that is the kind of forest Dhamma. This is the kind of war we have to wage. And that's why we are very reluctant, especially when we come from the West. We are very reluctant to take that upon us. If we talk with the with the words of Thanachand Mahabua, he compares it to boxing. Boxing is a national sport here in Thailand. You go into the ring and you're kicked out or you're knocked out by the champ. The champ is nothing else than a Avijja. So he also uses the terms of war in the terms of Buddhist practice. And even the Lord Buddha uses terms of war. He says it's easier to fight a whole army than to fight ourselves. What are these other terms than terms of war? What are these other words than words of war? So even the Lord Buddha said. So why can't we put that idea into the West? Why do we always think that it has to become blissful, that it has to be content, and that we are completely peaceful? It's not that we make a war. It is that we wage war that is already going on for thousands of years, for thousands of lifetimes, for millions of lifetimes within us. It's a war that the Kilesas declared on us. They torment us, they make us suffering, they make us pain, they make us this and they make us that. Now we just have to realize, and that is probably the most difficult thing for us, that this war is actually going on for ages and ages and ages, for eons of lifetimes. It has already been going on. So what we have to do now in our practice is to look and see it. See how it is going on, how it is led by the army of Kilesas to torment us, to make us suffer, to make us in pain. How is it led? And we do not have a lot of weapons, but we have two weapons that are sufficient for this kind of war. We have the weapon of sila, of sati and samadhi. We also have the preliminary weapon of sila to guide us in our conduct, to rule us in our conduct. Once our conduct is okay, once we are within the 5 precepts and there is no outgoing, then we can rely on sati and panya. Sati, mindfulness. Panya, wisdom. Understand this clearly. When the Western mind hears it, he probably thinks, having our mind full of knowledge. That is what is sati panya. But it's not meant. Sati is awareness. Actually, when you translate it would be better translated as mind emptiness. The mind is completely empty, completely alert and completely aware of what is going on. So it's not full with this thing or that thing or that thing or that thing. And knowledge is not wisdom. Knowledge has nothing to do with wisdom. But that is what our mind is trained. And it is what is so difficult to let go of. We really want to have something. We want to have something. We want to latch on something. But wisdom arises. We cannot learn it. Wisdom arises within our own heart if we do the things correctly. Sati can be compared to the hand that grabs a living fish, and panya is the knife that cuts the head off. Once the head is cut off, the fish is dead. When we talk about the kilesas, once we grab the kilesas firm, then panya can cut the head off. And then this kilesa is gone. And then we have to take the next, and the next, and the next. But if our grip of sati is not firm enough, the kilesas or the fish will go off. The fish just will dwindle back. And then we have to start again until we grab. And then our grab is not firm enough. And we have to grab it again and grab it again until our grab is firm enough. And then panya can sever the head. And this kilesa has done. That is what is called with our only weapons that we have. Sati panya. Sati panya are the weapons against the kilesa. And the sila is the confinement to confine the kilesas within a manageable range. If you don't have sila, there's no hope that we can ever get rid of the kilesa. We have to confine them. Like when you look at the example of Dhamma Mahabodhi, we have to confine them to the boxing ring. They are not allowed outside of the boxing. This is the sila, is this boxing ring. Within this boxing ring, okay. It is observable, it's viewable, so there we can look, there we can find. If the compound of our fight would be the whole world, we would be completely lost. So we have to confine the kilesas within this boxing ring. So you see the importance of sila. You see the importance of our as a monk, as of our 227 rules, or as a lay person of our 5 priests. Or when you are here in the monastery, you can even take 8 priests to confine them a little bit more. Now do you see the difficulty? Our mind is going to latch on knowledge. Immediately it will latch on knowledge. But that is not wisdom. Wisdom and knowledge do not differentiate. Otherwise, if wisdom and knowledge would be comparable, we in the West must be all be enlightened. We have gained so much knowledge, and no person is more knowledgeable than us. No countries are more knowledgeable than the Western countries. We perfected knowledge. It's just one of the tools of the kilesas to delude us, to make us think this is good or this is bad, to make us think us only in 2 terms. And that is what the kilesas want: good and bad, greed and hate. Nothing in between. Now use your mind. Why do you have it? You have it really only for masturbation. Use your mind to reflect carefully. Sometimes use your mind, even on what I'm saying. If you try to understand of what I say. Not to understand what you think, or you might think, or you assume to understand. To understand it in a completely different way. To understand it in a way that you never thought. Use your mind in this way, to pound it. To pound it into bits and pieces and to find the meanings. To interrogate. To question. What does it mean? Or what is this? Or what is that? And not only use your mind to conclude this and to conclude that, to assume this and to assume that, to view it as this or to view it as that. Because that's what we have been trained for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And now it's difficult. It's so difficult to unprogram this training or to untrain our mind to see the difference. To actually find the way to our chitta, to find the way to our true heart. If we find the way to our true heart, that's where wisdom will arrive. nowhere else. Wisdom does not arise in books. Wisdom does not arise within our brain. Wisdom arises only within our own heart. But we don't find the way to our own heart. And because it's so difficult, we stop or give up. Because we don't get results. Now listen carefully. We are programmed in the West to get results. We are absolutely programmed. If you don't get results, the method that we are using is worthless. That's what it said. That's how we have been educated. And this is wrong. We are not looking for results. When we start our practice of satipanya, of samadhi or developing wisdom, we are not looking for results. Because we don't actually know what we should look for. Remember this well. We don't actually know what we are looking for. Because we don't know what this means. We don't know what Nibbana means because we have never experienced it. We don't know what enlightenment means because we have never experienced it. So how can we look for enlightenment? How can we look for Nibbana? How can we look for stages of samadhi if we've never ever experienced it? We hear a lot, we assume a lot, and we view a lot. And that's what we're running after. And that's why we never ever get anywhere. Like a famous teaching in the West, just look at your mind, whatever comes in. You can do that to the rest of your life, and you will not gain any kind of wisdom. Nothing. You just see what is coming into the mind, garbage in and garbage out. Where's the wisdom? How can the wisdom arise? If we do not dissect, if we do not interrogate, if we do not question what is coming into the mind and why is it coming into the mind and how the hell is it coming into the mind. If we do not question it, how can we ever gain any kind of wisdom? But we are so stupefied by our own education, by our own conceit, by our conceit of supremacy, that we don't even question our own ongoing. When somebody tells us, and it is not just like an example, somebody tells us to open the door, and this door is locked. He says, there's a handle, you can open the door. Well, we try the handle and we cannot open the door. So we look at the frame of the door and we find the hinges. And then we work for the rest of our lives, to destroy the hinges, to open the door. That's the stupidity of our life. We do not even think what it means to open the door. We see that the handle is locked. We might even throw it away or cut it off and go to the hinge. That's what we're doing. We do not think. A wise person or a person who has a common sense, you know what common sense is. Just a common sense of a common person, a farmer that knows, whatever he sows, that he will reap. We don't even understand that. We don't even understand it to its true meaning. What you sow, that you will reap. It's a law of karma. Nothing else. Whatever we put in motion will have an effect. It will have an effect back onto us. So we're looking for the hinges because it's the hinges of the door, because it seems to be the easiest way, because it's on the frame of the door. So that's why we think. That's why we are fooled. If we remove the hinges, we can open the door. But if the door is locked, there is no hope in ever opening. A person who has a common sense, sees, tries the handle and sees it's locked. And then it looks a little bit down, and sees there's a locker. Maybe I need a key for it. So he goes back to his teacher and asks, where can I find the key? And he says, the key is in your heart. That's where you can find the key. And if he has a little bit of common sense, he will find the key and open the door and go through the door. And the rest of us, are still working on the hinges. Working our butt off, being completely exhausted and being about happy, every millimeter we work on. Because we want to have results. So every millimeter we work off, we think we are clever. We become cleverer and we become cleverer. And after 30 years, we think we all sussed it up. But the door is still there, it's still locked. It didn't move a bit. That's our stupidity. Because we're looking for the results. And it seems to be the easiest, if you remove the hinge. Then to find the key to unlock the door. And the key is nowhere else than within our own heart. That is buried deep within the kilesas. The kilesas are governing, they're piling up, they're cloaking it up. But if we put our work of samadhi and panya in the right direction, there will be proof. We will understand time by time, bit by bit. Even if we don't know that we understand, we will understand. Because the one that understands is the Chitta itself. It's not our brain that understands. I don't know how to make it clear. Maybe I was born in the wrong country. Maybe I was misplaced as a child in the Western country. Because my heart seems to be much more like Asian. So how can I make it clear to you? How can I make it clear to you? Even when I use the same language. To point you in the direction. Not to work at the hinges. Find the key and unlock the door and open the door with the handle. That's what the handle is for. We don't even think about it. We think it's wasting. It's a piece of obstruction, and we cut it down. Use your mind to question things. Use your mind to reflect on things. Ask yourself, how does this shit come into our mind? How does this dukkha come into our mind? How is this pain? But we live on the symbols. We so much adhere to the symbols. The symbols of Nibbana. How can we know Nibbana if we haven't experienced Nibbana? How can we know anything of this sort if we haven't really experienced it? In the moment we have experienced, we don't need to ask anybody what it is like. That's Sanditi Ko. It's open clearly to our own eyes. For our own eyes only. We cannot tell even a second person, what it is like. Because that second person wouldn't understand it anyway. Until he gets there, he won't understand. So we have to get rid of our looking for results. The results we are looking for, we don't know yet. So how can we look for them? Question the things that come into mind. Question every assumption you make. Question every view you make. Undermine them. Do not foster them. But we do foster them. Oh yes, I'm cleverer. I'm cleverer than this person. I'm cleverer. I practiced 20 years of Dhamma. So I should be a teacher now. What can I teach? Huh? Oh, I'm appointed by my teacher. Who appointed you? Can somebody appoint me a teacher of Dhamma? No. No. But in the West, that is proper usage. You should be a teacher. You should do this course, you should train this person, you should give lecture on this, and you should know. Should. And who's asking us? People who are blind. People who are completely ignorant of the truth. They call themselves teacher, and once they call their own disciples to be teacher, they become as stupid as their own teachers. And they don't know what to teach. But that's what we love. We don't know, they don't know, so we are all happy together in our not knowing. The only thing that can appoint us as a teacher is the Dhamma. Once the Dhamma breaks through, it can appoint us as a teacher. If we have the abilities to speak, if we have the abilities to formulate, if they have the ability to explain, then the Dhamma will force its own way through. And we will become a teacher not in the sense of the word, but in the sense of Dhamma. That's the only thing that can appoint us to be a teacher. Tanaja Mahabodha doesn't say to any of his disciples, you should become a teacher. Now you're old enough. Now you've spent 20 years in my monastery. Now you should teach. He never says things like that. He never says anything like that. You should go here, you should go there. He all leaves it up to the Dhamma. The Dhamma is the only thing that will decide. He only makes clear that as long as you stay in his monastery, you still are a student of his. That you still follow the rules, and that you still are practicing. But he doesn't point out, you should go here and you should go there. You should open this monastery, you should form that monastery, you should form this cycle. He doesn't. This is all Western ideas. I'm a teacher, I have students, the students has been long enough there, so he will become a teacher there, and he will translate my books, and he will write my courses, and he will do whatever. Do whatever I want. If Tanachan wants his loksits or his disciples to do one thing, then it is to practice. To practice samadhi and panya. That's the only thing that he wants. He wants the well-being of his disciples. And he knows the well-being will come through when we start to practice. When we start to practice the Dhamma, then the well-being comes through. So for him there are only two ways to practice. Sitting in samadhi, walking in samadhi, or standing in samadhi, or lying down in samadhi. Or doing investigation, developing wisdom, while lying down, while standing up, while walking, or while sitting. These are the only two kinds of works. That's what he wants his disciples to do. He doesn't want his disciples to build places, to build monasteries, to build temples, or this, or this, or that. He doesn't want them to translate books. He doesn't want them to do this or that. Anything for him. He is not interested. He is only interested in the well-being of his disciples. He is only interested for them to have the most ability or the most perfect place to practice. That's why he keeps all the disciples out of the worldly business. He says, I can do that. I can communicate with the lay people. I can look after the necessities of the world. And now, for people who have some experience with other monasteries, they know that this is sort of unique. Especially in the West it doesn't exist. This kind of Ajahn who looks really for the wealthy. He doesn't look for his own fame, he doesn't look for his own comfort. He looks for the comfort of his disciple. The comfort of his disciple that will result in Makkaphala and Nibbana. That's what he's only looking for. That's why he puts his effort into teaching. That's why he puts his effort into all these worldly things that are a necessity for a monastery to exist. Think about very well. Reflect about. Reflect about what you're doing. Reflect about what is coming into the mind. Why the hell is it coming into the mind? And what the hell is the source of it? And how the hell to get rid of it. That is the only thing. Don't look for results, because you don't know the results. The results will appear within your own heart. And there is nobody that needs to translate these results to you. So don't be stupid. Go to the door, unlock the door, and go through the door. Don't work yourself off at the hinges and think how clever you are, how much you work. And don't think that if somebody comes and just practice for a year, and you practice for 20 years or 10 years, that you are cleverer than them. You might have opened the door a long time ago, and you're still working at the hinges. Do you understand? It is not good and bad. It is not pleasant and unpleasant. It is to understand pleasantness and unpleasantness in its true form. To understand, not with our brain. If we understand that pleasantness is blue and unpleasantness is black, then this is not the understanding that we look at. When we do the Asubha practice, that means the practice of loathsomeness. It's bringing up these unpleasant feelings not to bury them, not to suppress them, not to view the world as unpleasant. That is not the purpose of this. To face unpleasantness. That is the purpose of it. You understand that? Listen. To face unpleasantness. To be aware of what unpleasantness really is. And it's easier to face unpleasantness than to face pleasantness. We always will avoid it. Unpleasant things we suppress. And if you suppress it, then it's like a pressure cooker. And a pressure cooker can hold only so much pressure before it explodes. And once it explodes, all your work was fruitless. If we develop the Asubha, if we look at the body, then we want to destroy the pleasant view of the body and replace it with an unpleasant, a more truthful. But it's not to make us angry. The anger comes from the kilesas that don't like to see the things as they are. We have to understand that clearly. Just to rip off the skin and see, the unpleasantness of the body doesn't create anger. The anger is created by the kilesa because they don't like to see it like this. They want to have this nice view of this body is beautiful, it's strong, and it's healthy, and it's this or it's that. It's extremely male or it's extremely female. That's what the kilesas want to see. So don't suppress these things, just be aware how unpleasant feelings arise and cease. Unpleasant feelings arise and cease. And be able to stay with them all the time until you see them from their arising until they cease. It's a training to stay with things, to be present at unpleasant situations, and to be present it's this first step, to make us able to stay with pleasant things. Because it is difficult, or it is more difficult to stay with pleasant things without the mind running away to create more in the future and look how much he had got in the past. It's more difficult to stay with pleasant things than with unpleasant things. Unpleasant things, it's easy. That's why we train it first. And it's not only why we train it first, because we have always suppressed it all our life. So we just bring it up. We just need to bring it up. See all the unpleasant encounters we had within our previous life. Or within this life. Just this life, just enough. All the unpleasant things. And look at them. How they were created, by what they were created, and so on. Question them, interrogate them, understand. Not with your prayer. And there's no purpose other than to understand their true nature. And you don't know what their true nature is, so you don't need to look for any kind of result. Get rid of all the ideas about Buddhism that you have, and just do the practice of Sila, Samadhi and Bhakti. That was the advice that was given to Thanachand Mahabua when he first came to Thanachand Man. Because Thanachand Mahabua started Pali in the Pali camp, so when he came to Thanachand Man told him, I want you to forget it. All what you do now is Buddha. The only thing that you do now is Buddha. Be aware of Buddha. Foster Buddha. And then later on, you can use this knowledge. And use this knowledge once he was finished and be able to teach. Then he could recite from the suttas or can bring in examples from the suttas. We do not know the result that we are looking for, so don't look for anything. Just don't. Once you catch your mind, destroy. And it's constantly, because we are trained so. So it's not uncommon. We don't know what we're looking for. All what we know is what to work on. We either work on samadhi or we work on developing wisdom. That's what we work on. That's what we are trained. And that's what we know. We know only the work. We don't know the results that are coming from. The more open we are for the results, the more ready they come. That is how we train wisdom. So, and with this I end the talk.